Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy Memorial Day. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Jen. Hello, Rachel. How's everybody doing today? How's everyone's weekend? Hello. Oh. Whew. Morning, good morning, good morning. Morning, Jeremiah. How you doing, buddy? Still sick and waiting for my car to be fixed. Aw. How was your weekend? It was good. It was busy, as always. It's my daughter's birthday tomorrow. So we went out and had hot pot yesterday. Needless to say, I got home and like didn't move because I was quite full. But hey, Kia, good morning. Oh, the cats are awake. I'm sorry you're dealing with everything you're dealing with, Jen. That just sucks. I can't even. I can't even. I mean, yep. But I'm trying to think. Anything specific happened other than that? Just a bunch of planning uh for my trip at the end of June. Cracked my screen on my phone, so that's fun. Another thing. And I wouldn't care if the crack didn't go right over the camera. So it's just a little one. Like it's just starts there, but it goes like right up and right through the camera lens. Like the actual camera is fine, but because the crack is right there, it just and I probably got to get it fixed before the trip because chances are I'm going to want to, well, not chances are, I'm definitely going to want to post it. Not yet. Not yet, Die. I'm gonna, but not yet. I just haven't had the time to get to an Apple store and get it replaced. But I got to do it soon before my trip. So tis what it is. How are you doing, Die? How was your weekend? I heard a rumor, Die, that your community is trying to get you to stream on TikTok and YouTube at the same time. I use Amazon Glass and do it myself. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. So it makes, because of the way the crack is, it almost makes like double views. Like if it's super sunny, especially if the light is going into the camera, it refracts the shot. So like the first time I checked it, I was like, oh, and I put it on, and you could literally see like a dim version of myself going sideways on the picture. I mean, I'm Gen X too, die. Just I am Gen X. We can be taught. I'm sure it could be a cool effect. I'm still gonna get it fixed. I just gotta do it. I gotta do a lot of stuff. Take some pics with it like this before fixing it just to see what happens. Well, I mean, it's the one that points at me, so the problem only comes when I'm doing, like, I guess, selfies, which I don't do many selfies. I don't like taking pictures of myself. I struggle with it. I, like, feel awkward when I'm taking a picture of myself. But, I mean, what's new? Over-the-shoulder nature pics on walks? There you go. Interesting. I'll have to check it out, Die. Today's going to be an excellent day. I hope so. I hope so. Hopefully this week is going to be an excellent week. I haven't had many interviews, which is great because I'm catching up finally on posting. But I got my first interview in a while that I've had in a while today. Also, Die, I've been thinking more and more about the need to do, I don't know if it's like a multi-tiered episode with like you and a bunch of other people. Like, remember how we talked a while ago about like doing a video about rewriting the Constitution? Like, I think that would be fun. I'm thinking more and more about how we can make that happen. Get some of the people that are running for Congress in on it. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it shows there's this desire for all of us to be very It also shows how hard it is to make a statement that covers what it needs. I think that's what I see as the difficult part, is how do you make a sentence or two, which is really what a lot of these things are. Or a paragraph that protects what it needs to protect without being so vague that it can be interpreted incorrectly. Like it's not even an agreement to some extent, because arguably what should be in the federal constitution should be broad protections. The question is how do you word it so it protects who it needs to protect? Like that's what, because in the end, arguably at least a good chunk of what is written has the potential to be good, but what we've realized is it's written in such a way to that it can be interpreted in a dangerous way. They relied on the Federalist Papers to help clarify. Yeah. Did you break something? I cracked my screen on my phone a little bit, and it went right over the camera. So, yes, I did. What I get for dropping my phone onto concrete. I didn't even drop it very far, but far enough. Yeah. And you can't rely on other writings to clarify things. You need to have it in the document, because then it's less interpretation and more what's in writing, you know? And that's what it needs to be. The fact that we have to rely on other writings to decide what they meant when they wrote it is probably the largest flaw in the system that I see. A huge mistake for SCOTUS to be quoting Congress in 1860. Yup. Yeah, I mean that that alone is like, it's like ignores the reality that society looks completely different than it did back then. The fact that you can actually take any document from that many years ago and say, we're still going to run things like we did back then, is wild and completely idiotic. I mean, that kind of goes along with the whole with the problem of conservatism as a whole, is this idea that things can't change or shouldn't change. Okay. People read my emails and they're like, Jenny, I'm like, what? I mean, verbose in its very nature isn't a bad thing, as long as what you are saying is clear, if that makes sense. You know, it's like the problem with a lot of the statements, even in the Bill of Rights, is there's too much. Like, they made generalities when they should have been specific. Like the all people in, what is it, the 14th Amendment? It's like, you should have been more specific. You should have said, all people, no matter your race, no matter, like, yeah. So it's like, there are some things that you can be general on if you say it in the right way. And then there are other things that you really need to be specific about. But you can still be general in your specificity. It's like, I don't know. I was thinking about that, and I don't think they could be specific at the same time as writing for the future. Think of everything to come. No, but I think they could have been more specific than they were. If separation of church and state was a thing, they should have been more specific about the separation of church and state. And again, we can have a conversation about what they meant, and we've seen it. They could have been more specific about what the freedom of the press looked like. They could have been more specific about what freedom of speech looked like. They could have been more specific about a lot of different things. They could have been more specific about birthright citizenship. Like, you could say the fact that we have to focus on the fact that they say people so in so many things is and again, not everything, obviously not everything, because the world changes. But I'm even talking about the later amendments. I'm not even talking about the first ones. Thinking about changes in linguistics and writing over time also led to some differences in interpretation. Sure. The Confederacy really wanted the definition locked in. Oh, yeah, I'm sure they did. I'm sure they wanted a specific definition locked in. Absolutely. And I'm not, the fact that they used the word people was great. And it better than locking in the idea of white people. Absolutely. And again, you might be right in the sense of, based on back then, maybe it was necessary to do it the way they did it. I just wonder, I guess I wonder if they knew the amount of problems that they would cause in the future by doing it the way they did it. And they probably didn't. They probably didn't even think about it at the time. But it just makes you think, right? Like, what if they did? Seems like they were almost there. I think we give the founding fathers too much credit. They were, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. That's absolutely fair statement, Q. Morning, Courtney. And they were drunks in general, too. Yep. Also true. Yes, they weren't. They weren't. At least by 2026 standards, they definitely weren't good people. In general. I don't know enough about every single one of them to be able to say it, but with 100% conviction, but yeah. Don't get me started on Benjamin Franklin. Good morning, Clara. Okay, I won't get you started on Benjamin Franklin. And that's the thing, right? It almost seems ridiculous that in 2026 that we are making decisions based on what people that are well documented to be the way they are, the way they were back then. Why we're taking that as what's the word? As canon. Like in what other world would we look at 250 years ago, 200 years ago and go, yeah, I'm going to make decisions based on what they thought. Like nothing else, literally nothing else. And yet for some reason we are doing that when it comes to running our government. Right? We would not, a normal sane person would never take what they thought 200 years ago, 150 years ago, even 100 years ago, and try and use it now. My friend in Wales' family home is older than the US. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Summer. I've also, like, it's so interesting to me watching some of these people try and toe this line of I don't care anymore, yet I still want to play it being a member of the GOP because I want to keep making money. Like I saw an interview with Tillis where he was like bashing every decision that was getting made and then came out with the horrible Obama nuclear deal. And it was like, dude, just shut up. Like, why did you feel the need to ride that line? Why did you feel the need to ride that line? And that's part of the problem, Kia, I think, worldwide, is I think there's this mentality by a lot of people that life by its very nature is just shitty. And because life is shitty, and it has been for so long, that means that's just the way life is. And there's nothing we can do about it, which is why our only goal is to not care about other people and make things better for ourselves. Tired of apathy. Oh, and I hear you. I'm tired of it too. Unfortunately, you're just hearing it so much. The other thing that I'm hearing is a lot of older people, a lot of people older than me, trying to tell younger people that the reason their life sucks is because they're doing things like working from home. How many people? There was no press coverage, and then I was thinking, how many people did that happen to? Yeah. Buddha, is that you? Right? Mm. I can't stand. I know. I think about that when it comes to when things happen to me, but I would never think that way. And I'd never think that way in terms of our ability to change things, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes when people ask why I don't get like angry about certain things, it's because sometimes just, you know, sometimes things happen and it is what it is. But in terms of as an excuse for not changing, making changes in society, it's a horrible statement. As we talk about this, I start thinking that this is also based on my perspective from my privileged eyeballs. Sure. I was only 22, so I didn't really know much then. That's fair. It's all rubbish. So there. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Morning, Laura. And that's why what we're doing is important, right, Jen? Because I'm getting a bit burned out on sticky notes. You know, I didn't go live on Friday. I didn't really end up posting content like I was planning to because I needed some days off. I didn't do anything, really, but I just took time away. Hey, Heather. Well, Heather, honestly, I was hoping some more people would be on and we could have some more people for conversations because of the holiday. And I didn't go live on Friday. So kind of a little bit of everything. All right, Histu. All right, everyone, let's not confuse this military day with any other, right? Not going live today, not having a good day. I feel you. The black box is TikTok's chat. So I put it over here so people that are watching over on the tube can see what the chat is going on. Sometimes it just takes a little bit for the chat to get there. Yeah, people on phones, it can be a little bit harder to read it, which I understand. If you're on a computer, you can read it just fine. But I can only do so much. The point that you have to step back and shake it off, true. Read on my iPad with it turned sideways, yeah. Yep. Well, I want people to know what I'm responding to. That's why I read it out loud. This is a day when performative patriotism celebrates the sacrifice of others. There is a lot of that, Debbie. Absolutely. Hey, Courtney. Anyone go to the cemeteries today? I don't even know of any near me. Is it? It is not here. If I live close enough to my family's cemetery, I would be. I'm trying to decide if I believe whether anything is going to come from this most recent suggestion that we might have a ceasefire, and it's not, hey Oceanic, and and that it's not just a ploy to try and get gas prices to be a little less expensive on Memorial Day weekend. Hey Shadow. Like 30 or 40 people in your fam that have served or are serving. That's amazing. Think it's just a ploy. You know, it's hard not to think it's a ploy based on the based on previous what's the word? Previous events by this administration. How are you, Oceanic? Thanks for being here. We have an altar space at my home for families that have passed. That's cool. Can't believe anything from this administration. They're pulling down facts from websites and adding propaganda. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the problem, right? He's been talking about an imminent deal for a long time. And there's been nothing. It's literally the boy who cried wolf. Has the blue wave hit your state? I mean, it's close. Our problem, as with a lot of states in the South, is gerrymandering. Morning, OC. Thank you. That is true. The past 5 times were about market plays. Yeah. And I mean, oil prices have gone down. And by down, instead of over $100, they're at 90 something. The orange mean jerk boy and wolf. Right. Yeah. Sorry. I was thinking of a different story, Die, not that one. That one. Pardon me for getting it confused with something else. Something else. Oh, man. Hope everyone had a good weekend. I appreciate you coming for support. Texas, North Carolina, Florida. I mean, they're all doing it. You saw the new Mando and Grogu movie in theaters. What'd you think of it? Cleaned and organized your pantry. There you go. There you go. Not sure. Hey, you know, what's wrong with having Santa on some posts? It's almost July, right? Christmas in July is a thing. Let's hope that people actually make it to vote in the midterms. Seriously. I think the biggest problem with these changes in districts, especially the ones that are happening, like, is that people won't know who their people are. So they'll just vote for people at the top of the ticket. Family fun action adventure movie, nothing groundbreaking, but very cool. 7.9 out of 10. There you go. Have to get the show up numbers up. Oh yeah, seriously. I didn't know there was such a thing as dummy Mandarin. Couldn't believe it when I read it. Serious. Yeah. I mean, we're getting a lot of really funny terms. Guy interviewed in Florida yesterday was just moved from D14 to D12 2 weeks ago. Yep. Morning, Angel. We really need to get the show up numbers up. We need to get the show up numbers up in primaries. As well as the midterms. The numbers are still too small. I don't know how we do it. We need the talking about it to spread. Only 12% of your country votes. Which country is that? Oh, county. Sorry. I misread. Sorry. I apologize. So many people don't care. You've got to just keep talking about it. And we got to keep talking about why they should care. Spoke to someone yesterday that was like, I'm not political. I went off about 45 minutes and told them we need all the voters we can get to stop it. Everybody is political. Someone saying they're not political means they are just putting their heads in the sand. They're not willing to realize that every bit of their entire life is political. Guys, if you're hanging out here, please tap on their nose. Tap on that nose. The more people, the more tapping we get, the more people get out. The more people's get outs and sees. Sorry, words are hard this morning, obviously. I said if you get off his ass and vote, yeah. Seriously. Also share, yeah. If you know people, please share. All that helps. Join in the fan club. Higher the attendance, the higher the numbers. Yeah. And the higher number of people that vote, especially when it comes to the midterms, the harder it's going to be for anyone to argue that it was stolen. Because you know they're going to try. Oh, I hear a lot of people say they're not political. And again, I understand. I understand that perspective. Thank you, Lisa. I understand that perspective. It's stressful. This is all stressful. I wish we didn't have to talk about any of it. Thank you, Hannah. But if you believe there are problems in this country, is there a number to call and debate? Derek, when you came in, you should have seen a paragraph thing that pops up, says I don't debate in this channel. What I know, Zenith, is that for the last couple decades, people have been screaming about them being 2 weeks away from destroying this country. And yet it's never happened. I also know that there was a nuclear deal that prevented them from getting it that this administration got rid of. And I also know that the only reason that the current regime is in power is because America decided they didn't like the person that was democratically voted into power. So they overthrew him and put one of their puppets in. So then the people fought back and overthrew that government. I thought we moved past that. You know, I thought we moved past a lot of things. I thought we moved past a lot of things. That's why I dance relieves the stress and the ick you feel. Fair. That's why I sing and play games, video games. Sometimes you just need to destroy things. You're painting fruit. There you go. I actually, yeah. We never actually fixed the problem. We just, threw a cover over it and tried to ignore that it even existed, which is why it never got fixed. Listen to audiobooks. I like listening to audiobooks too. I was getting ready for work. I remember watching it on TV while getting ready for work and then having to go into work. And that's like all anyone could talk about. Oh man, Lorenzo. Yeah. Just in case they decided to change it. Fair. Cuba. They've brought in another strike group into the Caribbean. Cuba. Shouldn't be at war with anybody. We should be working as a globe society to stop all of these damn wars. Not just blowing things up. That doesn't stop wars. I was talking to a Cuban. They said they've been begging to be attacked. I doubt it. Problem is, the whole sweeping it under the rug is BS. Of course it is. Hey, Aaron. Yes, you can't you can't fix something you refuse to acknowledge and discuss. Yes. I don't think they would, Oceanic. I mean, again, do they want a fix? Sure. I don't know why they think the United States would be a fix to their problem. Ask Puerto Rico how well that's working for them. Like, they know this administration in this country wouldn't be treating them any better. Community people can come up if you want. I doubt they're good with not having gas or electricity. Yeah. Although, like I said, from what I've read, they've had the largest boom in solar of like any country in the world. Like the growth of solar, because China's basically been sending over batteries and solar panels, and everyone is setting them up in their places to get electricity. So they're still struggling for obvious reasons, because I doubt they're going to get cars, but in terms of electricity for things, they're actually like, it's still nowhere near fixed, quote unquote, but they have had one of the largest, the quickest growth of electric power of any country ever in such a short amount of time. Hey, Cat. Hey, Breezy. Oh, never mind. I didn't read. I said hi before I read.
I feel you. All right.
Oh, he's taking another exam. Oceanic. Shocker. Yeah. Hi. Bye.
I think, and that might be well and good, you know, that they get it set up, especially if they get the infrastructure set up to actually run the solar power once it's there and get it all set up in a way. And, you know, getting it set up is great. Like dealing with it until you get there is another problem.
Of course.
But like when I watched this story, I can't remember where I watched it at, but they were showing like how people were pushing the cars to try to save gas in between, instead of like driving to your house, or if you're a cab driver, like driving people and then people pushing your car. It's just beyond.
Absolutely.
And I think if you've never like had to do without, like, I'm somebody, there's been twice where I've been 2 months with no water at my house because of well issues and trying to get that fixed. Here's my third or fourth time without having AC during the summertime, and I live in North Carolina. Not having an oven for 3 or 4 years. I think sometimes, like, unless you've actually lived like the actual suffering, it's really easy to say that ideas of things getting better is going to make it better. I think it's great that, you know, China, I hope China does everything for them, and I hope China gives them all the gas, all the oil, everything that they need to make them not have to depend on the US. And I hope they continue to do all the things, because the US wants to keep being shitty to all these other countries. They want to just, and then they wonder why people want to come here.
Mm-hmm.
And that frustrates me. Like, you know, they're blockading their gas and oil. You're okay with these. What do people not understand, that hospitals need like electricity? You know, people need gas and stuff. Like, what happens when there's an emergency? How do people get to the hospital? How do people get medical care? And there's no, like, there's just, It's so frustrating.
It's the mentality of the ends justify the means. Any means. The ends justify any means. And that is not only the dumbest, but also the worst perspective you can have. Hey, Patty.
Hey, Patty.
This idea that the only possible way to fix any problem in any country that is dealing with a problem is through the way that this current administration is doing it is just, it's that, again, it's that mentality that we got rid of a long time ago in this country and in most countries, not most, but a lot of countries of, you know, whoever has the most power can get the most, like, can do whatever they want. Like strength is the only thing that matters, and you can create the world that you want with that strength, and all this other, it's just.
And you know, for me, that's why it doesn't surprise me the fact that some folks are so violent and physically violent. Because when your government and your country is saying, hey, this is how we get shit done, why would you not expect normal people to think that?
Yep.
Like, it is just insane.
That is why I said what we are seeing. So we're seeing two different things going on. We're seeing people that consider themselves on the right being violent because of the rhetoric coming from this administration. And we are seeing people that would be considered on the left also being violent because they have been pushed to a point where they no longer care about the repercussions. Like, they have been pushed to that point. And those are two separate things that still come from the same problem. And if we don't accept that, and every country knows Iran is a problem, no one came to their defense. That's telling. No one's come to our defense either.
That part, Mike. Why do you think none of our allies, all of them, had said absolutely not? We are not helping in any way. We are wrong.
Actually, more countries are helping Iran than are helping us in this.
We're a problem.
More countries are helping Iran than are helping us.
We're not just a problem. We're the fucking problem. We are the problem. Hey, it's 2026. Let's act like it's the 16 and 1700s again, and we want to get those white tea people all over the place. We need to go ahead and start taking away voting rights for black and brown people. We need to start going over to Africa and continue to take their resources from them, because it's 2026 and that's what we do, right? Get the fuck out of here.
No, it's sad that the US is the problem. What you're the one who is being brainwashed to think that we aren't a problem. You're being brainwashed to think that it's our right to go in there to another country and do what we're doing, to treat other human beings the way we're treating them just because we have the capability to. That's brainwashing. Us saying that we don't think that we should be able to go, not only that we should just be able to go into any country we want and do whatever we want, but also that it's okay to just spend literally hundreds of billions of our dollars on this with no actual plan, no end game, no anything. Especially when it's impossible to do everything that they've said they want to do.
Not only that, for you to say some stupid shit like that, it's like, so you condone the fact that we drop things out of the sky and unalive those 160, 180 innocent people at that fucking school? Are you kidding me? Yeah, it is frowned upon to say Happy Memorial Day. I can't, like, people, like, I said it earlier and I might have gotten filtered. I don't know. But Happy Memorial Day is an oxymoron.
That's fair.
Happy Memorial, like that is not. It is not about the people who are active veterans that are serving right now. It is memorial. That means they're gone. They were lost. So please, whether you're on our side, not whatever, please do not say Happy Memorial Day. It's about remembrance.
Well, and I think the problem was me. I actually put it in the title, not thinking about that. So I can restart if.
Oh, is that like on your thing when you first come in?
Well, it's the like the title thing. So someone who's scrolling through would see that as the stream title.
Ah, gotcha. It's a good thing we're not talking to you. But I think the other thing, I was listening to this live last night and I heard a stat and it just kind of really put it in perspective for me. Do you know, in order to be a billionaire, a 1 billionaire, not multi, a 1 billionaire, you have to make $89,000 a day for 30 years to become a billionaire? Think about that. $89,000 per 24 hours for 30 years straight in order to make $1 billion. 1 billionaire. Who the fuck works that much that they deserve to earn all that kind of money? Where? Bye. I want to block her so bad. Or them, whoever it is. Every time. And I think one of the things is you've got this person out there, and then and another part of that conversation that made so much sense is you got all these people out here being super supportive of all these billionaires and multimillionaires and these corporations, thinking that it's going to do something for you, and it's really truly not.
Yeah.
Like, they literally cannot make any money without the people that work for them. These people that are sitting there making the billions of dollars make shit without the people buying their products, the people selling their products, people putting all their stuff in, shipping it and all that stuff. It is just, you will.
I know it means they'll come back. I'm going to restart it. I don't like the idea that my title says that. I'm going to restart.
Okay.
Live.
Okay.
I'll be right back, guys. Obviously, if you're over on the tube, you don't need to worry about it. But over on TikTok, I'll be right back.
Okay. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Long time no see.
I know. Yeah. I didn't even think about that, and it was bugging me ever since I was reminded of it, so.
All right, now we got to get to tapping again.
Sorry, everybody.
No, that's okay. I appreciate that you did that, honestly. Like, if someone came in at a Vex Fly this morning, like, Happy Memorial Day. I'm like, that's how bad we fucked it up. Now Memorial Day is all about going out shopping, getting sales, and having, you know what I mean? It's just the whole plot has been lost.
And that's really the case with every holiday in this country. The holidays in this country are no longer for what they were originally designed to be for. They're ways for people to make money now. And it's gotten kind of disgustingly bad. Hey, Linda.
It's good to see you too, Linda.
I wasn't sure whether today was going to mean more people because it was a holiday or less people because it's a holiday.
I mean, because I honestly, I would say it. I think it's going to depend on. Because the one thing I will say is this: with all the crazy shit that's going on in this world, I know some people are looking forward to getting together, and if anything, then I'm trying to look at that as like a way of showing resistance.
Mhm.
Because if you're in, like, I know Bex is like going to a cookout today, like her area, it's nice. I mean, it finally stopped raining here, but I mean, it was pouring.
Yeah. Why is the U.S. so uniquely militaristic in its culture versus other developed nations? I mean, so here's the thing to remember, and again, this is just how this is a perspective I have. I'm obviously willing to be wrong. We are a younger country in the grand scheme of things. A lot of those countries that seem less militaristic were just like us, but they're older countries. In terms of United States as a society, we are pretty young. I think there's lots of things that got us to where we are, but I think I think what we are seeing right now that is making it seem bigger than I think it actually is, to an extent. That might be a bad way of saying it, but I think we as a country as a society, global even, are dealing with a shift, a societal shift, with a bunch of with younger people. Maybe you could learn from these older countries and not make the mistakes others made. You can't really say that, because the world right now is completely different than it was when those, like, saying don't make the mistakes that other countries made is like saying you can learn how to live in 2026 because of how your great 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 grandfather lived. Are there aspects that you could learn from? Sure, but it's also a different world. What we're dealing with right now is a global society, and a lot of other countries are dealing with it, but a global society where you've got millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha that literally view the world completely differently than Gen X, boomers, silent generation, for however many are left. It's not a it's not a we're not talking about a minute difference. We're talking about a massive difference. So what we've got is a lot of older people that are still trying to live and do things the way they grew up being told the world works. And they're not getting that the world is different. And you've got a lot of younger people that are like, they're literally living in a different world. Their brains, everything, it's completely different. You can't teach them the same way. They can't work the same way. Nothing is going to be the same. You can say it all you want. You can say it should be the same all you want, but it's not. And instead of learning and adjusting, all of the older people that have the stuff are trying to say, no, you need to do it like we did it because that's what worked for us. They're not trying to understand. They're not trying to learn. They're not trying to change. They're saying our way or the highway. And that is why we're having this kind of level of conflict, division, whatever you want to call it, between these groups of people. And again, that's not to say all older or all younger. We obviously know that there are a lot of younger men, especially younger men that look like me, especially, that have been convinced by the manosphere. We also obviously know, because we have a lot of them here, people that are Gen X and boomers that see the problem and want to do something about it. So again, I want to make it clear, this is not a everybody on all sides. We know there are millennials that are also part of the problem. We know there are Gen Zs that are part of the problem. It's not that there aren't any, it's that a majority, even those younger people, though, this is the thing. Like, you look at a lot of the Gen Z that are MAGA, they're only sort of MAGA. Because again, they agree on certain parts, but there are lines that older people don't see. The world was a better place years ago because we had respect, compassion, and discipline. Disagree.
I disagree as well. I think it depends on who you're talking about.
So, and again, did we have respect? It depends what groups you were talking about. Years ago, depending on how many years ago you're talking about, we were about 1 billion times more disrespectful to people in marginalized communities. Compassion. Again, did we have compassion for marginalized communities? Nah. And discipline.
I think it was...
And discipline is just, people using their... has always been people with power using their power to just get their way. Compassion for your neighbors. I have lots of compassion for my neighbors. Sorry, you can go. You go.
I'm like, is he done? I'm like, should I drop so you can keep
I don't know if there was a delay, but I stopped talking for a long time, waiting for you to talk again. So that was all. So go.
Okay. So, and that's the thing. I mean, it's 2026. My neighbor across the street a couple years ago threatened to unalive my son and called him an N-word. My neighbors that live literally right next door, I mean, our houses are probably 100 feet away from each other, 150 feet from each other. I had 3 boys, they had 2 boys, and their boys were not allowed to play with my kids. They straight up, their oldest son told my oldest son, my parents won't let us play with you guys because you're black. We literally live right next door to each other. It's 2026. So I think it depends on the compassion where you're from and who you grew up with and all those different things. That kind of statement kind of says that you didn't pay attention to what was going on actively. I mean, because at the end of the day, we've had slavery in this country. Then not only that, we had Jim Crow laws after that. I mean, there's so many things that has happened. And I think part of the issue is that people did the bubble thing and they stayed in a bubble that kept them comfortable and happy. And they didn't talk about politics. We don't do politics. We don't talk about, religion and stuff, the stuff that's going on in the church. And that was hurtful. I think the whole, just like folks going to church and putting on their super dressy clothes, but being super hateful as well. I think it's a mask.
And here's the thing. And this is where, again, current realities current societies, current technologies have changed things. So where did this idea of not doing politics come from? So before the internet, the only way you got politics was from reading the news or watching TV. It was really, most of your day did not have politics in your face. It was really easy to quote unquote not do politics. Or radio. Fair. Or radio. Either way, you had to things like the internet and algorithms didn't exist. You had to wasn't 24/7 news coverage. There wasn't a lot of things that there are now. And because of that, as that technology, as things like algorithms, as things like all of that stuff came to be, what ended up happening was people started to pull away. People started to be like, this is way more than I'm used to experiencing this. This is stressful. And again, it's true, especially if you aren't used to the internet. The internet is this kind of internet is stressful, and it's even stressful for younger people. They just grew up with it. So it interacts with them differently. So that's where this idea of I don't do politics, as it was starting to get in our faces more because we couldn't avoid it, we started to try and get to, all of us older people, because I used to do it, tried to get into this feeling of normalcy that we were used to, which wasn't a 24/7 internet. Like you had to take the initiative, just like Hakuba, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, said there was an initiative that was necessary that you don't need to do anymore, and it's in your face. So what's happening is people are sitting here trying to, they're not understanding that there's just this massive difference between these two groups of people. And we're realizing, the younger people especially, but older people, because those that are actually willing to take the time and look, we're experiencing the world. We're experiencing more how other countries work, and what doesn't work in other countries, what works in our country, what doesn't work in our country. No, we were actually normal compared to the people today growing up in the 70s and 80s.
I grew up in the 80s. What does that mean?
I grew up in the 70s and 80s. What does that mean? Travel is key, but it's not key now. That's what I'm saying. Yes, traveling can help. Sure. Being there in other cultures also helps. But unless you were super wealthy back in the day, you didn't experience any of that. We didn't have all the news media in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, we didn't have 24/7 news media. Sure. There was still news.
Bernard, I feel you, because even like, especially like how I learn and how I process stuff, I'm like a more hands-on visual, like going to another country, especially it's crazy because I've been to Mexico 3 times, and I've been to Punta Cana, and seeing how people live, like you see, because like when you see influencers and stuff share stuff, a lot of times you're just seeing the resorts and the pretty parts and stuff like that, but you don't get to see what happens outside. And I remember just going to the resort, and I still, in my head, I see a lot of young men, sitting around, and they had like bikes, like regular bicycles with like motors put on them, and you see all these chickens walking around, and you just see different parts, how different life. But like one of the things in Mexico, like how much, like even at the resorts, how you're not allowed to wear, you go to these eco parks, you're not allowed to wear the sunscreen we wear here, and all the poison and all the different things. They're a lot more cognizant, and it's just like talking to people about my trip to Mexico and people thinking they got Walmarts. Yes, they have Walmarts there. Like, we're not, for some reason, a lot of people, especially if you haven't had the privilege of being able to travel, if you haven't been able to experience that, like, I think from just what we're told, especially growing up when we did, because we didn't have the 24/7 and the internet, and then now that we do, a lot of people think like Mexico and a lot of these other countries are all just world countries just because of what's always been said, and that's
Yeah.
just not the truth.
And here's the thing. When it comes to normal, Jode, normal is relative. Yeah. We didn't have all of the news stations we have now. We didn't have all of the people online talking about the news like we have now. So what? That's the point. The world is different now. That was normal back then. That's not what's normal now. What's normal now, because all of us silent Gen X boomers, it sucks today. According to you, I'm much happier that I have more access to news than I did when I was younger. I'm much happier that I know what's going on around the world in a way that I didn't when I was younger. Are there bad things to it? Yes. There were also bad things that were going on in the 70s and 80s. There are bad things about every society. It doesn't suck. It's not what you liked. You liked the other way better, and that's fine. You're completely allowed to. There are days that I want no news, and it's harder to get away from it now than it used to be. But the problem is not society. The problem is the structure that older people allowed to exist. We're not doing anything to fix. We're blaming Democrats or Republicans in some cases, which I think they are mostly to blame, but we're just blaming groups of people instead of actually fixing the problem. If the problem is, algorithms give us 24-hour news cycles, and it's affecting people's mental health, then let's talk about that and see what we can do to make sure people are informed, but that does not, make people shut off. Like, we can have conversations about the problems. That's what we need to do. But seeing or saying it sucks today, that doesn't help anything. You aren't helping anything. This is the way it is. You can sit here and dream of the 70s and 80s all you want. Go for it. Dream about it. It's gone. It's fucking gone. It does. It again, sucks is a relative term. What sucks? What sucks today? Having access to more news and information does not suck. People today can't. Sorry, go.
I'll say this. I kind of see what you're saying, because it does suck. For me, like, I think the thing that makes it suck so bad is the fact that we have access to all of this news and information, and it seems like people are trying even harder to just willfully be disingenuous and be ignorant. So I get it, because I think it does suck. I think it sucks. I think it's relative to when the times were, though. I don't think we can compare 2026 to the 70s or the 80s, but I understand that difference. But I do think I agree to the fact that it was easier to just hide in your bubble when you didn't have all that information and news. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, in my opinion, it is kind of like a double-edged sword, because I do like knowing what's going on. I like to know, and not having to wait days and be days behind with what's going on and whether it's good or bad. But I also think sometimes, especially now, I think the fact that you've got deals being made that are allowing basically monopolies when it comes to our news and the different things like that, it is very harmful.
We did not have 24-hour news before social media. Not like it is now. Not even close. And when you say the youngest generation is lame, shut up. And you can stay for now, but shut up. No, we did not have a 24-hour news cycle. You had to watch news. You had to go and get things. Like you had to go read the paper, or you had to listen to the radio, or the news was on at very specific times. It was on for a decent amount of time, but it was not all day, every day. And it wasn't at the palm of your hand. You had to do work. So Bernard, my YouTube, so if you just go to YouTube and type in Breaking the Meta podcast, it'll pop up with the same logo. Bullshit. Yes, it was. No, it wasn't. I was there. I was alive. Watching. I know it wasn't.
Yeah, and Roberto, you don't have to agree, that's fine, but leave the caps for mods. I don't want to feel like I'm dragging people. Wait. I don't think anyone wants to go back in time for real. It's a longing for a feeling when things felt safer because we were younger and didn't have the life experiences we have now. That's what Summer said on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's very true. And I think Summer, like, honestly, sometimes, like, my dad is a boomer, right? And I remember my daddy, I'll say my daddy, he did 22 years in the army. And I remember, like, I have 3 sons. He kept, you need to go to the military. You need to go to the military. You need to go to the military. That's what he kept trying to do with all 3 of my boys. Tried to tell my middle son, like, you need to cut your hair because he has dreads. You need to cut your dreads. You need to go in the military. You need to go in the military. And I kept trying to explain to him, Daddy, the military now is not the same as when it was when you went to the military in 1977. Not to mention, like, you went because there wasn't any other at that point in time. There, you didn't really have any other avenues. There wasn't like money for school. He was, one of 6 kids. They didn't make a lot of money. It wasn't like that. And I think it's hard because it is different. And when people don't, we have to remember the past, because if we don't remember what has happened in the past, we are doomed to repeat it. However, we can't get stuck in the past and get stuck in the way. And I agree, it was a lot easier when you could just literally turn off your TV and you don't have to worry about it. You didn't pick up a supercomputer that you had in your hand and could be blasted by several different social media places with all kinds of stuff just flying all over the place, whether it's true or not. It was a lot easier to pretend. It was a lot easier. It's when a lot of that whole what happens in this house stays in this house happens too. There's a lot of bad shit that happened then. And I think it's good that now you have access. People who can't get out of their homes for whatever reason, whether it's physical or mental, you have access to the world and other people who are like-minded.
And again, when you were talking about the two-edged sword thing, I understand it. But I also think that the reason that we're living in a two-edged sword environment when it comes to things like the internet and social media and everything is because we are a capitalistic society, an unregulated capitalist society, that instead of building in protections for a lot of the things that we experience now, we just open the flood doors and let it grow into something that we cannot stop. And we have, like, the people that are benefiting the most because of the internet and because of social media are the ones that are trying to tell all the people that are suffering because of what they created that they need to suck it up and get back to work. Like, every benefit that somebody older than me got because of technology and social media and the internet, whether it's through their stocks or their 401k or their jobs. The people that helped build this, that made it possible for us to get where we are now the ones that are sitting here and saying that, you know, social media is the problem. Social media is a problem right now. Yes, totally agree with that. There is a problem with social media as it currently stands. No argument there. We are currently dealing with many issues. The fact that social media is allowed to do things the way it does without being held responsible for is one of the biggest problems. Disagree that social media is one of the biggest problems. 100% disagree. I think one of the biggest problems we're dealing with is that people that are in charge right now are unwilling to actually do anything about the problems that exist in this country. Affordability is a problem, is the problem. The ability, people's ability to make enough money to pay their bills is the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems that we have. The cost of healthcare, the cost of food, the cost of energy, the cost of everything. That is the problem. That is and everything that comes with it.
And that comment, like AJ's comment, we can't go back, so it's pointless. We do, however, need to preserve our history and not erase it. I think we even have to go further. I think we need to get better at being more truthful and stop whitewashing history.
We need to accept our history.
We have whitewashed the shit out of this country. And I'll tell you, like, going in different spaces, like especially like in BIPOC spaces, one of the things that gets talked about a lot is how a lot of this stuff is racism. And a lot of people, I think, it's, you got capitalism. Look at all these isms. Look at what these isms are doing. You got racism and you got capitalism. People got rich in this country. That whole shit started off the backs of people.
Don't forget sexism.
Yes, that one too. It's like, you know, but when it came to the slave trade, it didn't have shit to do with sexism. That's, you know, that this country started, the capitalism started with selling people. You know what I mean? Like, I need people to understand that. That's why, like, Gone with the Wind, people are like, that's just a great movie. And I'm like, to me, I can't, I have never watched that movie and I never would, because to me, it just like perpetuates like, hey, it's great and grand that these people lived in these big ass plantation houses while they literally had human beings that they owned that made all of their wealth for them. And I think the thing is, and you're right, Mike, there's all those other things that are definitely the bigger issue. Social media is an issue, but I think you're exactly right. It's the fact that people are allowed to just get up here or get on whatever and just put forth whatever kind of bullshit they want to. And that is a thing. However, I think they've almost started trying to indoctrinate people that it's such a big issue because they don't get to control the narrative, and that's what that's about.
Sure.
Social media, those folks, all the folks that are running the media stations and all of that, yes, TikTok filters the shit out of us, but we still get to converse. We still get to have conversations. We can still organize and we can still do all those things. They don't control the narrative in these spaces.
So, Joe, there's two things about your statement. We need to make things affordable. It's not a guarantee that we need to make things cheaper. We need to make things affordable. Is it going to be possible because of what we have allowed to just make things cheaper? I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. We are in end stage capitalism that we have allowed to get to. The reality is that 1% of this country owns like 40% of all of the wealth of the entire country. You can't, unless we are going to take the government and just have them, I mean, that would literally crash everything. Now, is that what's needed? I don't know. I think there's a good argument for all of it. Do I think there are things that we can do to limit the wealth of some people while increasing the affordability for others? Yes, I think there are lots of things that we can do. We talk about them all the time. But in the end, none of it's going to happen if we don't get people in office that want to actually do those things. And we need to get enough people. If we only get one person in office, two people in office that actually want to make changes, we're going to deal with what we're dealing with right now with like the what? We've probably got 2 or 3 people in Congress right now that want to make some drastic changes, and the rest want to keep things as is because we don't go and vote in our primaries and we don't go and vote to reign. No, it does not.
I think tiefling is gonna be.
Article 5 does not allow the states to reign in an out of control federal government. Not what you think.
Thing is, the cost of things is not going to go back down, unfortunately. I mean, if it was going to, it should have already started doing that once the country opened back up after the pandemic, because, oh, everything went up during the pandemic, and oh, things got to stay high while companies recoup the loss they had during the pandemic, and oh, well, people are willing to pay this higher price for this item. Okay, well, then I'm going to sell it this higher price. Now, people are willing to pay that higher price for the item with the tariffs on it because we need it. So even though they're reducing tariffs, and they're reducing the amount that it costs to import it, they're still selling it for that higher cost because we, the people, started buying it for that higher cost and we're willing to pay it. So they're going to continue charging us $30 for something that 2 years ago was $15.
The Convention of States just basically allows the states to do what Congress does in the beginning. And it opens up the door of changing everything. And it still requires a 3/4 majority to ratify. Nothing changes other than that. So no, it doesn't. It just, all Article 5 does is allow the states to do the first step that is most people only consider Congress doing. And the 20 states that are, most of the 20 states that are already on board are southern states that want to make things more conservative. Again, I've said multiple times that we need to rewrite the Constitution. But we need to understand what we're talking about. Costs are not going to go down. Costs are not going to go down. We need to let people fail. I think the reason we got to where we're at is we as a government have decided that there can be companies that are too big to fail.
That was part of that same conversation and just in case, since we restarted, if you guys missed it the first time, I actually wrote this on the inside of my pack, my empty gum pack, because I wanted to remember it. In order to be a billionaire, a 1 billionaire, not multi, a 1 billionaire, you have to make $89,000 a day for 30 years. $89,000 every 24 hours is how much you have to make to become a billionaire for 30 years. 89,000. And part of the issue is, and when you think about that, is like the indoctrination and the brainwashing has been so real. You're right. Like we feel like it's like when people have that argument, well, if we make them pay more, then they're gonna raise prices. Do you not understand? Like if you say that out loud and think about how wild it is, like they've literally brainwashed people into thinking it's our jobs. These companies keep making profit, record profit, hand over fist, and that's all it takes is for them to say, well, if we raise your wages, we're gonna have to raise prices. No, they don't. First of all, people just stop. If people would buy what they need and not everything they want, that would be a big thing. But unless people are willing to just say, you know what, I don't need to buy everything because I can, just to buy the things that I need, like we show them that they're right.
Mm-hmm.
Because you keep shopping and you keep doing all the things to prove them right.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying because it hasn't been used before, it doesn't matter. I'm saying the problem with a convention of states is the exact same problem with Congress doing it. And the problem still comes down to the voters. You want a convention of states that actually gets something fixed, then I hope more people are going to start voting in the primaries and knowing who their state reps are and voting for their state reps, not just federal. Because the only way you are going to get any change in this country still comes down to the necessity of 3/4 of the states agreeing to ratify anything. Anything. We can have a convention of states, but unless 3/4 of the states ratify it, it doesn't matter. If we all decided to ban lobby money, we could just do that and add it to the Constitution. If we had legislatures that were willing to do that, we could do that. You still need 3/4 of the legislatures to ratify anything in the Constitution. Anything. And we aren't even close to that. Again, I understand what everyone is saying. I understand the desire. I understand the problem. I understand it all. But when we only get 15 to 25% of the voters vote in primaries, you're going to keep getting the same people in state and federal legislatures every time. When only 40 to 60% of the country votes, you're going to get what we're getting. I think both right and left agree banning all lobby money would be a good thing.
I agree.
I think if you ask the average person, yes, but not enough of them agree with it enough to hold their representatives accountable with their vote. That is still a problem. And the problem with a convention of states is you cannot limit the discussion in a convention of states. A convention of states opens the entire Constitution up to be changed. Absolutely. Well, people should be voting in the primaries. The fact that the numbers are different in the primaries than in the general election is disgusting. The fact that our numbers in any election are, Scott, who a lot of you may know comes up here, has said it, and I've said it. The fact that in Hungary, where Orban did everything possible to prevent people from getting out to vote, still got 80% of their electorate to get out and vote. And we're lucky if a good day is 60. I'm arguing that we need fundamental changes to the framework. I agree with you that we need fundamental changes. I 100% agree with you. I disagree that this is the conversation we need to be having right now. Like, sure, we agree that we need to make fundamental changes. Great. Now what?
Switch, I will say, I'm not sure if you've never been here before, but we've actually had this conversation. We've actually laid out what we would want our new constitution to look like. We've already discussed changes that need to be made, getting rid of the electoral college, putting term limits everywhere, Supreme Court, federal judges, Congress. We think all of those things, and I think if you've been here for more of those conversations, you know that we've had those conversations already.
Okay, so switch. This is what I want you to hear. And again, what you're saying, in a world that doesn't live in the realities we are living with, I would totally agree with you. But we've got states with people in charge that are sexist, racist. All of the ists that we don't think should be in society right now. All of the phobics that shouldn't be in society right now. They get to choose. Those legislatures, those people in charge that are like that, get to choose who they send to a convention of states. Who's to say that they will agree to sign on for any amendment to the Constitution unless we add other things? Again, when you have a constitution, you cannot limit its scope. A constitutional convention, a convention of states, opens up a complete rewrite of the entire Constitution. They can send, yes, but we can't just magically walk in. It still matters who's in charge at that moment. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. A constitutional convention is not a place. The second you open up a constitutional convention, the entire Constitution is up for grabs at that moment. There is no limit to what can be discussed in a constitutional convention. Nobody would agree with that. We have had constitutional lawyers in here that would disagree with your statements right now. And I'm sure they know more about the Constitution than you do. No offense. And again, I have said that I think we need a constitutional convention, but that does not change the fact that 3/4 of the states are still necessary to ratify. And that doesn't change the reality that no one in there has to sign off on anything that they don't want to. And that doesn't change the fact that the legislature gets to decide who the delegates are. And if the delegates are ultra conservative, MAGA, that's who they're going to send. And I think there's this idea from some people that we can become all kumbaya about certain things. That's not. It's just not a reality. And this is coming from someone who to the anger of many in this community at times, tries to see other people's perspectives that they wouldn't be able to do themselves. It's time for a regional system of government. America has collapsed. Disagree. America's got some serious problems, and we do need to change a lot. But it's still, like, again, if we don't fix the underlying problems in this country, it doesn't matter what system of governance we put through. It's going to be flawed. It's going to fail. Because we still are not willing to actually work on the underlying issues. So, like, say we get a regional system of governance. Okay. So, what was that? What does a region look like? Southeast, southwest, northeast, and northwest. How does that help the people in the southeast that are very progressive? Where does America matter in the world? No, now, nowhere. That's where. What is mattering? Like, what you think America only exists based on how this hemisphere? Oh, you're talking about like a global society kind of thing. I mean, you'd have to get a lot of countries to agree with something like that, and a lot of people. The American idea has died. What American idea is that? And again, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to understand your perspective.
Bernard, I'd say it depends on who you are, what kind of American you are, what your American idea is. because I think for the idea of America looks different depending on who you are, what you look like, where you come from, all those things.
Or are you talking about the quote unquote American dream that everybody has been sold?
Democracy is now
I
game.
don't think is dead.
I mean, we've never been a full democracy. We weren't a democracy when this country started. We've become more of a democracy. At least we weren't very democratic when this country first started. We have become more of a democracy over time, and now the people that don't want certain people to have the ability to vote are trying to take away that. The problem is we're not making any changes. And the problem is we're thinking that the old ways are the better ways, which I have a complete hatred of that idea, no matter what it is. Like any country that says that things were quote unquote so much better. It's not. YT supremacy has always, like, these people didn't go away. Again, that is something that has been fought to get to the point. We were fighting against it. Is it pushing back? Yeah, sure, it's pushing back. That doesn't mean you just give up and say, well.
I think for sure this goes to like lack of accountability, especially after the CW that happened in the 1800s. The fact that folks literally uprose against their country, they split, they literally own people, they own human beings, and then they just got to go home with their tails tucked between their legs. They got to participate in their governments and everything like that. So I feel you where you talk about the whole idea of YT supremacy, because I bet you, I could tell you what, if it would have been Black folks that would have tried to lead the uprising and the separation and all of that, it wouldn't have turned out the same. They wouldn't have got to go home with their tails tucked between their legs. I mean, look at this country, what has happened in all these predominantly Black areas when Black people started to do better. Look what happened in Wilmington. Look what happened in Tulsa. Look, in New York City, Central Park. Do you know that used to be an affluent Black neighborhood? And they tore the shit down to build a fucking park.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think, I feel you. As a Black woman, like, I feel you. And that's where that's why I get frustrated when people keep saying that it's gonna take a YT man to pull us out of that shit. Frustrates the freak out of me, because I'm like, that's why we're here. That's why we are here. I agree with you 5,000%. YT supremacy is real, and there's a lot of YT people that don't understand it, and they have lived in their privilege and not known it their entire lives. And some people have woke up a long time ago to that, and some people are still just waking up to that. I totally agree with you. I totally 150,000%. I wish we talked about race more. I do get disappointed when I'm in YT spaces that they don't talk about race more, because I don't think people understand how racist and when the things that they're doing to actively attack the Black vote. If the Black vote, and they sit there and talk about, well, you're only a certain percentage. Well, if our vote was not so important, why are you actively attacking it the way you are? Why are these states doing what they're doing? And look at what states are doing it. The ones that got to go home with their tails tucked.
Yep.
I mean, come on. I feel you. I feel you, but I don't think that anybody would want to partner with us and do any kind of multi country shit, because we don't lead with anything. What are we the best at? Not in our medical stuff, not in our infrastructure, not in our health care, not in our education. What are we the best at? We spend the most money on our fucking military. Way fucking to go for us.
And here's the other thing about that. In order for something like what you were talking about, Bernard, to actually exist, not only would the leaders in this country have to be people that would be willing to do something like that. Like, it would have to be a complete change. Like it would not only have to be a complete change in our leadership, the people would have to literally vote for it in some way, shape, or form. But every other country would have to agree for something like that to happen too. And so this is one of those, that's an easy thing to say at this moment. That's like, that doesn't even begin to fix the problems that we need dealt with in this country before we could get something like that to even be considered. We're like, I've said this before, we're living in a for the past, I mean, you could argue since the beginning of this country, but definitely the last 60 years, we have been a country where we are getting, like, if you take this country and you look at it as a body, we've been getting thousands upon thousands of little cuts on us. And instead of trying to figure out why the cuts are happening, we just keep putting Band-Aids over the cuts. The cuts are still bleeding. And now we have so many cuts that there is a problem of the potential of the body not being able to sustain itself anymore because of it. America was an experiment. That experiment has collapsed, and now it's time to move on. What does that mean, though? Like, you say it's time to move on. What does that look like? Like, that just feels like a very generic statement. Like, when we say that, what does that mean? Actually, I think, Steve, most of the people that say things like that are on the left, not on the right. The people that watch Fox News think that we just need to get back to the way it was. Free multi-party democracy. I mean, again, all these are great, and I agree with them, and we've talked about them 100%. The only way we are going to get these kind of systems is if we make changes in our Constitution. To make changes in our Constitution, not only do we need 2/3 in order to make it happen, we need 3/4 of the states to ratify it. And unless we get more people in the state houses, that's not going to happen. Unless we get more people in state positions that are willing to vote for something like that, it's not going to happen. So is the ERA a waste of time because it didn't pass? Hey, Kirsten. Was it a waste of time? I am not saying that we shouldn't have conversations about it. I'm saying if people don't do the work to make something like that a reality, then all of this is just talk. Like, it's still work. The most important thing is that people that are running that are willing to do it get voted in. So not only do they need to win their primaries, but then they need to get voted into office. And as long as we're going to have such a small percentage run in or vote in the primaries, and a small percentage vote and a barely majority of voting capable people voting in general elections, we're going to keep having it.
I'd like to say, Bernard, I'll say this. I agree. Like, again, you must not be in here often because I have no love for the founding fathers at all. I know I'd probably piss some people off in here talking about that, and I don't care, because I truly believe you're right. They were slave owners. They were disgusting, horrible people. I don't care if they were smart or whatever. I don't care. I think we hold them up, and I don't think that we should. However, I just think that's just, at the end of the day, that's not going to fix it right now. We can't just, especially those of us who have children and family and things like that. What do you suggest you do? And I think that's the problem. When you just scream about stuff, but there's no solutions, you're not being helpful. I don't think it's being helpful. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I also disagree with some of it. I don't what Mike is saying, I get. We have to get the people. People keep talking about they want change, but they don't get out there to vote to put the people in who want to do the change. Because expecting the people that are already there showing you they're not voting for change and just voting for them because you couldn't do whatever in your best, try your best to actually vote in the midterm, then that's on you. When you actively choose not to try to vote to make the people in, get the people in. But like I'll say also, I don't think moderates are good people. I would not vote for somebody that's moderate. I would not vote for a conservative, because conserve means you want to go back to the old ways and you want things to stay the same. Moderate means to me that you're okay with being in the middle, being mediocre, and not ever getting anything done. You're okay with shit just being as it is, as long as it just keeps moving. I totally agree. We need progressive people in there that are willing to fight this shit. Because for people to just keep saying, but that's how it is what it is, that's how it's always been, and how we always do things, I think is wrong. Just like when people sit there and say, I don't think we're ready for a woman president. We didn't think we were ready. We didn't think there was ever going to be a black president, but it happened. But when do we change our thought processes to get to the point where we realize how important it is to get out there and vote? You want different candidates, you need to vote in different candidates and give them a chance. Stop expecting the people who are not doing shit for you now to all of a sudden wake up tomorrow and decide they want to do something for you. I totally believe in that.
There's a bipartisan take that can bring in conservatives. I think what we have seen from these Republicans that have been primaried is that you will not, they will be willing to say things, maybe, but when it comes to their actions, they still will vote against the people. I think if you want actual change, if the bond, oh my gosh, we had a Great Depression and the federal government didn't collapse. The government will not collapse. The government will get more power if you do it wrong.
And I think, to me, like, conservatives, like, no, do you guys like understand like conservatism, what it means, like to hold on to, conserve the past, conserve the things they were? Please tell me, especially for BIPOC people, how conserving any of that shit is any good. For women, how is that any good? There's nothing conservative, period, that is any good for the overall population. Every time a conservative, quote unquote conservatives, have led anything, it has been detrimental to us all.
Bernard, so here's the thing. And again, I can appreciate that a lot of the people here are more informed. We can't get people to vote. We can't get people to try and pay attention, to care about who's in office. And you think that they are going to be willing to chance going against the federal government when it comes to their taxes or anything else? The reason we are in the position we're in is because there is a very large amount of people that aren't willing to do anything. That is the problem, is most of the country is not willing to do any work, let alone some work.
Bill, I also live in a small town. I live in a town of 2,200 people with 3 stoplights. Okay, like, I live in a small town, so I get it. But that's where things like social media and the internet come in handy for us, because we can access, like, even where I am, was it Ballotpedia or something like that? There's different sites and stuff they have set up. Yep. What is that? It? Okay.
Ballotpedia does 4-1 vote 411.org. There's a lot of things out there to find out who's running in your area that will get you a ton of information.
Like I live in North Carolina. I went into I Googled how do I find my reps because I wanted it all in one place where I could take a screenshot and have all the information together. And I pulled it up. And you know what a good thing is like also look on, I know a lot of people don't use Book of Faces, but I'm telling you, look at Book of Faces. Like, cause there was judges that were running here. Now I got a booklet at my house. It didn't have any of the other candidates. It was just about the judges and talking about what they run on, what they vote for, yada, yada. But I also checked their Facebook pages. And one dude had like, basically he was like reposting MAGA stuff, talking about how great he thought the orange one was and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, I know not to vote for you. But I think now this is when we use the internet, the computer, social media to our advantage and try to look stuff up.
And Bale, so I think it always requires people to be proactive. There is nothing there is unless we set up a system where the government proactively makes sure however we figure out, proactively goes out to make sure every household that has a voting block knows who they're voting for, unless the government does it, federal, state, local, unless they do it, it's always going to take people being proactive. And again, that's what it comes down to, is do people care enough to do the work? Right now, most people don't. And that's a different problem. And Bernard, the Second Amendment was not always the Second Amendment, just like the First Amendment was not always the First Amendment. There were actually 2 amendments before it. The order doesn't mean anything. I know we all think it means something. It doesn't. The order is just like, there were actually different First and Second Amendments, but they didn't get ratified. So the ones that were the third and the fourth got ratified.
And the meaning of the Second Amendment didn't change until, is it Heller or Keller? I can't remember the name. The decision in like 08 is when when they changed. So from the time it was written until 2008 is when they changed the meaning, quote unquote, in the Supreme Court.
But Bernard, you're sitting here saying that the reason the Second Amendment followed by the First is a defined reason. It's not. It's just the order in which they talked about it. The First Amendment is focused on a freedom of expression. It is now. That one didn't used to be the First Amendment. That one did not go to the states for ratification as the First Amendment. It went to the ratification as the Third Amendment. That wasn't even considered the most important amendment to them at the time, to make it first. Yeah, because they couldn't get 3/4 of the states to vote for it. Actually, most of the amendments barely got 3/4 of the states to vote for it, if we're being honest.
And I'm gonna take this time right quick to put in there, just in case you guys didn't know, we're also streaming on the Tube Monday through Friday, unless Mike has something to do. We are streaming in both places. We start at 9:30 on the Tube, and we start over here at 10. We're streaming at both places. And the Shadow put in the chat, both of them have been interviewing. If you guys didn't know, they have been interviewing candidates, progressive candidates across the country in all kinds of races, state races, federal races. I know Mike has interviewed a couple of governors, and they're posted on their Tube of View channels. So please, like, to support, not just to support Mike and Shadow, but to also support the candidates. Go watch these interviews. You get a different perspective when somebody's not, you know, on a big old news station trying to do an interview. It's totally different. You get a different vibe from people when they feel like they could talk more freer to an independent type person.
Bernard, the Second Amendment was written at a time when the government would not allow for militias, and the kind of arms people had were single shot rifles. Trying to look at where we live right now from that perspective is futile. I disagree with people's perspective on the Second Amendment. I don't believe that the whole purpose of it was to say that every state should be allowed to have a militia, which they do. It's called the National Guard.
Yep, that's what it was until our lovely SCOTUS said they interpreted it differently. But like I said, that was just within this century. Within the last 18, 20 years, 15, 20 years, something like that.
No, it does not mean if the government fails you, you can take up arms against them. There's actually nothing that says that we can just take up arms against them. You think they would do you think, and again, this is the thing that always is hilarious to me, is that you think the people that ran our government would put wording in there that would allow the people under them to do what they did to Britain? Hell no. Hell no. No, that is how you interpret what it says. And that's part of the problem. Again, I have read it many, many times.
I almost feel like this has kind of turned into like a debate with Bernard.
I know. Well,
it's a little frustrating. Like, there's not even anybody commenting on the tube anymore. The entire screen is just him and you guys disgusting. Bernard, please stop yelling. Please don't use caps. We don't use caps in our spaces. What you have to say is no more important than anybody else, and it's for the mods. It's for the mods to communicate with might. So please stop doing that.
The thing we really need is to limit his wealth. Agree.
That part, because you know something I wanted to bring up, something that I saw this morning that WREL covered, and you know, you guys realize school's getting ready to come out. I'm totally flipping the script. Sorry, my brain was starting to go insane. It's going to be summertime, and you know what that means? Kids are not going to be in school. You know what that also means? Like with what has happened with stuff, with people getting their food stamps and everything cut, is that these kids are going to start, what's going to happen to these kids, especially in states where they cut the programs for the kids to eat. I know for the few summers after, I think it was like, 4 years after C-19, when everything shut down, they started doing the free lunch programs where you could get like a breakfast and lunch. They had multiple schools throughout our county you could go up to, and any child under 18 and under could go get a free bag lunch and breakfast. And it makes me wonder what's going to happen. And you sit there and you think about all that money that just got spent on these races for like people like Massey and shit like that. So I agree, like the money needs to come out of it. Money needs to change. And it just makes me think, how many kids could we feed over the summertime with all that money that just went on that race for Massey?
If I may. So, excuse me, in Indiana, they opted not to renew the Sunbucks program this year, which is the program that gives parents money to feed their kids over the summer, because the paperwork was quite literally too much of a hassle. Don't believe me? Google Indiana Sunbucks 2026. It'll detail it out for you. So basically, here's the thing you have to understand is it was $120 per kid for the summer, and that's 2 months. So that was $60 a month, $15 a week, $3 a day for 5 days to make sure they had food. So we are now looking at parents who either have to pick up more time at work, have to like pick up another job, secondary, third, fourth job, like DoorDash, have to figure out what to do with their kids because they can't afford the daycare, but they have to go to work to get the extra money in order to feed the kids. I mean, it's a never ending vicious cycle in a lot of states. We're seeing that here. You know, that money would have fed 600,000 kids. 600,000 kids, over 500,000 children in this state, and understand at least a fourth of those will be going hungry at some point over the summer because parents will either not have the money, or the parents are going to go hungry to feed the kids. One of the two is going to happen.
And on a smile, I haven't seen your comments in a while. The thing to understand for anyone that is commenting over on the TikTok, this app filters a lot of stuff. In general, when people ask a question, unless I find that it is disrespectful, I try and at least interact with it in some way, shape, or form, if I can, depending on how many people are talking. So,
Scroll out and scroll back in. That's the way on TikTok it works. If you scroll out and you come back in and your comment's not there, it got filtered. I got filtered saying, like, good morning. I hope you have a lovely day. So you just never know. And honestly, when they updated the app, they did say that literally, depending on what's happening at the time, they can change what words are considered filtered or not. Bill, I think for one, getting money out of politics. I think the money thing for sure. I think term limits, and when I say term limits, I'm talking big time. Federal judges, we already have it on the president, but SCOTUS, all of Congress, both houses. I think that's another thing. And I think uh, I think the whole Constitution needs, but get rid of the Electoral College. I would say. What about you, Mike?
I think
Yeah,
if
Citizens United is the word I couldn't think of. Sorry,
I
sorry,
think
Mike.
if we get money out of politics, I think if we ban gerrymandering, and I think if we put term limits on our system, I think that has I think that can start the process of fixing the other things that I think a lot of the issues that we are dealing with have to do or come from those. I'm maybe adding a fourth of just getting rid of the Electoral College. I don't remember if I said that, but I think if we can get rid of that, I think that will open the door for us to be able to fix more of the things. I think a lot of what we're dealing with is based on, comes from those issues. Because the fact is there's a lot of issues, but I think money in politics and things of that nature and gerrymandering are making, especially, and no term limits are making it so are allowing for corruption to exist. Now, again, understand my perspective on term limits changed in the last year. I still believe if we can find a way to get 90% of the country to vote, and we can find a way to get people involved, I don't think we need term limits. And I still believe that. I still believe we shouldn't need term limits. I think we should be encouraging people and teach people to be involved in the system. I think the current system, though, does not. And that's a future.
Yes, Rip. But sorry, I'm sorry, Shadi. Yes, Rip. And that is true. That's just my wishes. Those are, like, when I was answering the questions, those are just what I want. Well, if I could get what I wanted, that would be it.
The question was, what are the top 3 things that need to be reconstructed in our current system to make it better? Not how feasible are those things for happening anytime soon. Did you want to say something, Shadow?
Oh, I was just gonna say we need to get money out of politics. In a perfect world, we wouldn't need term or age limits, but we do not live in a perfect world. And unfortunately, I don't see us having a system that doesn't need that anytime in the next 50 to 100 years at this point. I think we do need to have age limits and we need to have term limits, age specifically, because I do not believe an octogenarian should be in office. I think after a certain point, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, the cognitive abilities of the brain does start to slow down and decay. And after a certain point, we truly do want the best person for the job, and somebody in their 80s is not going to be the best person for their job. It's not. Let's like say the Supreme Court, we could use somebody that as an advisor or a reference, but they should not actually be there making policy. Supreme Court justices shouldn't be on the bench for 30 plus years. They just shouldn't. At some point, they should be told, hey, you've hit your term limit, you've hit your age limit, you need to step down.
On a smile, I disagree. Citizens United and the lack of term limits or the existence of the electoral college has, by their very existence, allowed for the removal of guardrails on the system. Like the Citizen United decision removed guardrails. There were guardrails on it. That's why it went all the way to the Supreme Court. Because those guardrails existed, they were fighting against it, and the Supreme Court decided to interpret the Constitution in a way that allowed for companies to be considered people when it comes to our politicians. And lack of guardrails are the result, but Citizens United existing, lack of term limits, and the electoral college existing are what allowed for the removal of those guardrails, because electoral college made it so there's only going to be two parties. Two-party system is always going to be fraught with corruption. No term limits allowed for a lot of people to gain a lot of wealth and power via the system, which made them do more and more things to keep all of that money and power. And Citizens United allowed those people with money and power to use that money and power to get things that they want. Guardrails are a design choice, not an outcome. They are a design choice for an outcome. And there were guardrails there, and there were people that took those guardrails for the reason of, through Citizens United and the act of no term limits. Again, a lot of those guardrails existed.
And the third item would be get rid of Citizens United.
And we need to be clear. You can't technically get rid of Citizens United. I know we say that a lot.
Right.
I say it a lot
I
too.
understand we can't.
I wasn't
get
saying it
rid
to
of
you.
it
I was just
per
saying
se.
in general. We need to create something, whether it's constitutional or law, that does not allow. Probably have to be constitutional or we'd have to get people in the Supreme Court to overturn Citizens United, just like Roe v. Wade got overturned. Basically, reinterpret the Constitution to not make businesses people. But in the long run, the only way to fix it from happening again is to change the Constitution in order to make it very clear that businesses are not people. That is the only way that we could 100% fix the problem.
I think one of the biggest guardrails that need to be fixed or put in place better or whatever is how do we hold the actually holding of the accountability when you've got folks like this weak ass Congress that just refuses to hold, who you know, there needs to be some kind of other and for those of you guys that have never been here before, one of the things I've said several times is that we have an issue when it comes to holding people accountable, and I mean that goes back centuries. And we also have an issue with making sure that there needs to be language, just like with the e-file shit. Look what happened with that. The verbiage was not put in there. Like, okay, so they don't put it out there as such a place. What happens? You've got people trying to be careful of how I say this. We have people in offices that should not be insider trading, that have made thousands of insider tradings and making millions of dollars behind the scenes. All
100%.
that shit needs to be put in nipped in the bud. But if anything, the only good thing I can say about this bad regime is I hope that it wakes us up and it shows us all the weak spots and all the spots that need to be fixed and broken.
And again, on a smile, yes, having multi-party minority government and the ability to, especially like when people change parties or do things, having the ability to bring back to vote people that are doing things, having those mechanisms, sure, those are definitely ways of accountability. But the other is getting out and voting in the primaries. We can do it now. We don't. We're arguably, as a whole, now, you know, it's tough to say, but as a whole, again, Republicans have done better on getting rid of incumbents than Democrats even have. There's a lot of potential reasons for that, but it's also...
I think it's also to that though. I don't think that's a flex. It's because they're in a cult, and basically, whenever Donald Trump tells them, "Hey, don't support this person," they don't. It's a cult.
I understand
I
that.
don't. I give them the one thing I give them is that they're better at playing the long game and sticking together and keeping it moving, and they just keep pushing and pushing and trying. Where we do strongly worded letters. I think they got us there. I think we need to give up on the whole strongly worded letters and start doing some shit. It's got to be, something's got to be done differently.
And again, I will say this again, as long as 15 to 25% of our electorate get out to vote in the primaries, as long as 40 to 60% vote in general elections, as long as people only vote at the top of the ticket, as long as people don't know who their representatives are in the state and local, we will continue to struggle with this. It will continue to be a problem. If we do not put people in office, because there are people that are running to change things for the betterment of all people in their districts, literally all people, regardless of whether they believe them or not. They don't sit there and they don't do what MAGA does and say that all X, Y, and Z are this. They may believe that everyone that votes and supports this administration is something. That doesn't change the fact that their end goal is to make all people, even the ones that don't like them, you know, not suffer, because they're trying to stop suffering. If we don't get them through the primaries, we don't get out the incumbents that are status quo, if we don't get out and vote in the general, everything we talk about doesn't matter if we don't get people in that are willing to make the change. Whether it's local, state, or federal, it doesn't matter, because all of them are required to make change. Every single one. Your local has the most direct effect on you. State has the second most. Federal has the third. And yet we focus on federal almost to the exclusive of everything else.
Yeah, definitely. You guys make sure you watch the videos. If you guys, watch the candidates, listen to the candidates, listen to what they're saying. We do have people that are willing. If nobody votes for them, they don't get a chance.
Mhm.
And that falls on us. And I'll just say, because I know you're already late, I'm not going to go live today. I did post it in my Discord. I'm just not up to being in front of the camera today.
So yeah, guys, I post interviews every single day over on the tube, and please go and watch them. Please share it. Shadow interviews people all the time too. Basically support people that are interviewing, because that's how name recognition and visibility happens. And make sure people get out and vote. That's the other thing that is necessary. So I got to get out. Please, if you haven't collected your points, please do. Please again, follow, share over there. Also know I'm trying to raise money to go out to meet some of these people in person. I know money's tight, so please don't feel like you need to. But if you have the capability and want me to be able to do something like that, there is a link in my bio on TikTok. There's a pinned link over on the tube, and there's a link over in Discord. We have a Discord as well. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate everybody. I'll be back tomorrow morning, and we'll talk about whatever BS this administration does, and we'll keep talking about stuff that we need to change. Because again, part of understanding is listening to different perspectives. Nobody knows everything. So, guys, you guys are amazing, just the way you are. And I love you all very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Remember to sing, laugh, dance, smile. Do something that makes you happy. Enjoy the sunlight if you have any. Bye, guys.